Okay, welcome everyone. This week is Parshas Beshalach, and I want to start. It's also a very special day because it's Yud Shvat, which is the day that the Rebbe became the Rebbe.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because it took an entire year until he actually assumed his father-in-law passed away, and for the entire year he did not want to be. This was not him. This was not what he wanted to do. He always shied away from the limelight. He wasn't interested.
Like Moshe.
Like Moshe, exactly. And it took a year until he actually became the Rebbe. The Hasidim were saying on the Yud Shvat, like a Rebbe says a mimer, which is a very deep, philosophical, Hasidic, Kabbalistic discussion. There's a sicha, which is just a talk, and that's like things that we say on the parsha. They're shorter, they're simpler, and then there's like a very involved, long Hasidic mimer, which is like a deeper ma'amar. Ma'amar. But we call it mimer. There's a sicha, which is a talk, and a ma'amar, which is a deeper, longer, more involved discussion that goes into like the Kabbalistic understanding and so forth. And the Hasidim were saying to the Rebbe, we want a mimer. That's like, only a Rebbe says a mimer. Like everyone could say a talk, but only a Rebbe says this actual mimer. And they were saying, we really want the mimer. And the Rebbe started saying the mimer on Yud Shvat. He started with saying Basi Lagani, which is talking about Hashem coming to this world. Hashem as presence in this world, and that was when they understood that the Rebbe became the Rebbe. And it took a while. It took an entire year of convincing the Rebbe to become the Rebbe, because the Rebbe was not interested in that role. Like, he had gone to university, even though he was a tremendous Talmudic Torah scholar, Kabbalist, everything. He was known to be all these things, but he was shying away from the role. So he figured, I'll get a degree in college and I'll earn a livelihood. He didn't want to earn a livelihood as a rabbi. He was trying to get away from the limelight. I'll get a job, an honest job, and that's why he was actually working as an engineer in the Navy Yard, right? When he came, and he had patent, and he was working in when he came to America, he was working as an engineer for the government in the Navy Yard. And he was kind of hiding. People didn't even know what he was. Like, he seemed like he was just this person, a regular person who was just involved with, they didn't understand the depth of his knowledge and the depth of how smart he was and how brilliant he was. And that's what he had hoped to do, just hide away. But and I remember my mother telling me that her father was in Israel and they were having a vote who should be the next Rebbe. Wow. And there was the Rebbe or his brother-in-law, because there was two people. The Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, had two daughters.
That's what I wanted to ask. Who was before him?
The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, who was the predecessor, he was Reb Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson.
Also Schneerson?
Also Schneerson, yes.
It's spelled a little different.
Oh.
But they're related.
They're related, yeah. They're somehow related. They're related, like, from a little bit back. But so I remember my mother saying, like, there was a vote, like, who would be the Rebbe, and my grandfather says, like, I know who that one is, and this is the one that is going to be the one that is the Rebbe, because people knew. Yeah, it was like, it was obvious the way, and at one point the Rebbe said, like, he's going to speak, he's going to go to the gravesite of the Shver, of his father-in-law, and hear what he tells him. Mm-hmm. And when his brother-in-law heard that, he said, like, I don't go to the grave and hear him talking. So obviously, this is the one. But what I find so interesting, and we're going to talk about this in what we learned from the Rebbe in this week's Torah portion, and we'll see this is just so classical, the Rebbe, what his approach was. But what's so interesting is the Rebbe was someone who was like very much paradoxical. Like, he was a real introvert. He liked his solitude. He liked his time alone. And yet he was so out there constantly, like he didn't have time of his own. I remember my father came to him once to give him, it's a long story, but my father had someone who had been in Warsaw, to the curator of a museum. He brought back some books from Warsaw, and he showed to my father that these books were like on loan to the Reformed temple that was in Toronto. And my father says, "Can I see the books?" And he showed him the books, and he saw some of the writings from the previous Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek, and these were actually written like like crossed out. So he asked his uncle, who was a big expert on books, and he said, if things are crossed out, that means it's like the handwritten edition of that person, the actual edition of the person. So my father brought it to the Rebbe. He brought the man to the Rebbe, and he actually wanted to give it as a gift to the Rebbe because this was part of the previous Rebbe's library. And this was taken out from Russia, and people didn't know, like there was even these books. This was like from the first discoveries that they knew that this was the previous Rebbe had this big collection, and this was part of how they were able to get it back from the Russians. But when my father came to the Rebbe and he showed him the book, he said to him, now is between, I forgot if it was 7 to 8 or 8 to 9 in the evening. This is my time. After that, he had yechidus, which means he would have interviews with people all night long. He would do till like the early hours of the morning. And so he was like, can I borrow the book? Can I see the books? Because this is my time. Like, this is the time that I can have for myself. Like the 1 hour a day, that was my time. What did he want to do during his time? He wanted to look through the Sfarim. He wanted to learn, but it was my time, his own. So I just say that because the Rebbe was such an introvert, yet all his time was spent with people nonstop, till early hours of the morning. He would have interviews with people and conversations with people, and yechidus, which means yechidut, which is people would come in and speak to him and hear his advice and get his counsel. The Rebbe was also a very private person. He was very much a private person who didn't want to be in the public eye. Like I said, he just wanted to get a degree in engineering and be an engineer, and that's it. Like no one knows who he is, no one knows his greatness, very hidden. And yet he took this position because he knew this is something that he needed to do. This was needed for the Jewish people.
Come in.
Sorry, no problem. The Rebbe was also like, he spoke one time about himself as he said he worked a lot on himself. He had originally been what he called Mora Shechora, which, welcome, which means,
Do we need another chair? Let me go get another chair, right? Yeah. Let me go get another chair.
so you can use my chair because I'm not using it.
Sure.
Yes, I'm not using it, I'm standing.
She would have
Make another chair.
I'm not using it.
Okay.
It's just in my way.
Let me go get a chair for you.
Here, come sit over here, I'm not using it.
Karen, move on. See you smiling like. So good to be here. It really is. I'm so happy that you're back. I always thought about, the war. I said, oy vavoy, you're stuck there, oy vavoy.
That's what I was thinking about the snow, I was thinking about.
Yes.
Is there another chair?
Yes, here, there's two chairs. There's a chair here, and then there's a chair there. Yeah, that's good.
The truth is, I can sit on this toe.
No,
Definitely can.
no, this is Hannah's.
No, it's fine. I'm not
You
using it.
you are not that big.
Amazing. Sorry, you're disturbing the show.
I read,
I'm so sorry.
I saw an article about the Rebbe that he was actually here, and around the time that things were starting to get bad in Europe, and then, but because he said that because that men shaved their beards, he didn't want to stay here. Did you read a story like that? I read a story like that. I'm gonna look it up, but I read a story like that, and that's why he went back to,
That's the previous Rebbe.
the previous Rebbe, okay.
That makes more sense.
Okay.
That makes more sense.
You're good?
So I was just saying that the Rebbe said he spoke about himself often, and he spoke about himself at that time, and he said that he really worked on himself because the Rebbe was a realist. A realist is somebody that doesn't always see the positive outcomes of something. A realist doesn't always think positively. And he spoke about how he worked so much on himself to see everything in such a positive light.
Yeah, anybody was.
Which, and you see that throughout, like, all was so positive, but he said about himself, like, by nature, he was more of a, I wouldn't say pessimist, but more of a realist, like more real about, situations. And a person who's very real about what is reality isn't always hopeful, thinking positively, thinking that everything's going to be good. But he worked on himself to have that positivity. If you ever read the book Positivity Bias, I think you gave it, you see so much how positive he was in all his attitudes. So, and we can share stories afterwards. I'd like to share stories after the class about the Rebbe.
Yes.
But I want to show in this class on the Parsha how we see that, like how we see why was the Rebbe these ways, going so against his nature of being an introvert yet spending all his time with the public, being a private person yet being such a public world, the most public world that we can even imagine, and being this realist but changing to be this positivity person. How we see that the Rebbe's main motive, as we're going to see in this class, which is like such an example of what his teachings were, like all the teachings that we do, but this I think is a great example. His main way of thinking was just do things, just do it, just do it. And he said so often, ha'maisa hu ha'ikar, ha'ma'aseh hu ha'ikar. The main thing is doing. It's nice if you are feeling spiritual, if you're feeling this way, you're feeling that way, you're feeling inspired. The main thing is act. Obviously, we should feel inspired. Obviously, we want to have a feeling for the mitzvot that we do. We want to have passion for what we're doing. But the main thing is do it. Once you do it, the passion will come. And I think so often we wait for that, as we're going to see in today's class.
We wait for the passion?
We wait for it. If I don't feel it, why should I do it?
Right.
Why should I do it?
Really?
If I'm not feeling like spiritual, why should I open the book and pray right now? Pray, and then you'll feel the passion. If I'm not feeling so loving to my husband, why should I act that way? Act that way, and then it will come, right? If you're not feeling, we live in a society where we are waiting for that feeling before we act on it, and the Rebbe was act, and then the feeling will come. And sometimes the other way, we think like we're afraid, as we're going to see in this week's Torah portion, we are sometimes afraid of things. We're afraid of the future. We're afraid of discomfort. And that's why we wait to act until the discomfort goes down, until we feel confident, until we know the results. And the Rebbe's attitude was go, and then the discomfort will be less. Do that action. Do that action, even if it's against your nature. Your nature will change by your actions. Your actions is what makes you into the person that you become. And that's what we see in this week's Torah portion. We're going to share some more stories afterwards about Yud Shvat or about the Rebbe. But what I want to share with this week's Torah portion is the Jewish people are now at the Yam Suf. They have left Egypt. They have left Mitzrayim. And as we always speak about, when we talk about leaving Mitzrayim, Mitzrayim means Meitzarim, which is restrictions, limitations. And it is not just a physical place or a physical location, but we all need to leave Mitzrayim on a day-to-day basis. And that's why we have a mitzvah to remember every day. Zachor Yitziat Mitzrayim. We remember Zechirat Yitziat Mitzrayim. We remember every day that we left Egypt, because every day we're meant to go out of Egypt, meaning our own limitations, our own things that are holding us back, the things that are stopping us from reaching our potential. We have to do that every single day. So when we speak about Mitzrayim, we're not just speaking about how they left then. All the particulars are about what we're going through now. And that's why when we did the Makot, we went through all of them, what it means today, what it means for us. So what was happening? They left Mitzrayim. They left this place of slavery, of oppression and difficulty. And they're now out of Egypt. And the Egyptians are chasing them. They're running after them. And where do they see themselves? They see themselves running. The Egyptians are behind them. And in front of them is the Yam Suf, is the sea. And what are they supposed to do? The sea is in front of them. The Egyptians are behind them. What are they supposed to do?
Swim.
It's high.
His new meeting to the term sink or swim. I know.
So, this is often a situation that we can find ourselves in. We've left the oppression. We've left a difficult situation. We've left our Mitzrayim, but Mitzrayim has not left us.
Wow.
And, you can see that. I'll give you an example. I had a friend who I remember once we were walking. We used to go walking together. And it wasn't here. It wasn't in Muncie. It was before. And there was a certain street that she always avoided. And I'm like, why can't we go on this street? She says, because on this street, there's a certain man who lives there, and a woman, a husband and wife. And that man had a partnership with my husband at one point, and he really messed him up. And he stole from him or whatever. And now this lady was doing very well, Baruch Hashem, and her husband was doing very well in business. But maybe 10 years before that, they got into this rift, and and this person messed up her husband, so she couldn't even go on that street because this is where the lady and her husband lived. And I was thinking afterwards, this is exactly what it means to leave Egypt, but Egypt doesn't leave us. She was not able to go on that street. Did her friend know that she wasn't able to go on the street? Her friend couldn't care less. This enemy. Did the enemy care that she wasn't able to go on that street? That person had no even idea that she was going all around. The only one that she was really making miserable was herself. 10 years later, even though her husband was now doing well and he had a new businesses and new business partners. So she was out of Egypt. But Egypt wasn't out of her. It was still so much a part of her. It was still so much a part of her psyche that she couldn't even go on the street. Who was she hurting? Just herself. And this is sometimes where we see we're out of Egypt, but the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, are still chasing us. We're out of our trauma. We've finished our trauma. The traumas from our childhood, the traumas from our past, the difficulties, whatever that we've gone through. But we haven't really left it. It's still within us. You see sometimes people who have lived in a situation of, where they had poverty or people in the war, they'll make sure they stock up, so much stocking up, or, they'll make sure they lock the doors and check that the doors are locked. Like all these, the trauma is still in them. They've left the Egypt, but the Egypt hasn't left them. So that's what we have here. The Jewish people are now facing the Yam Suf in front of them, and the Egyptians chasing up behind them. Their trauma from Egypt is right there. It's real. It hasn't left them. They've left the Egypt, but they're still there. And now they have a choice. What are we going to do? So you have two Jews, you have two opinions, right?
No, three opinions.
Three opinions, right? So we have four opinions here. We have four opinions of what the nation decided, what they were thinking to do. The four opinions were, well, what do you think are solutions? What could you do? If the sea is in front of you,
Go back.
go back. That was the second opinion. The first opinion was, let's jump into the sea and that's it. Jump into the sea and that's it. Because there's no escape. We'll jump into the sea and that's it. Second is go back. Let's go back to Egypt.
Number 4, fight them.
The three was fight them.
3 is fight them.
We'll fight them. Let's fight the Egyptians. That's even though it was suicidal because the Egyptians were like such a nation, but we'll fight them. And number 4 was pray.
Wow.
Number 4 was pray.
Oh,
Wow.
it should be one.
And Moshe said they're all wrong.
Wrong.
All of them are wrong. And we're going to see why they're all wrong. And there's something right in each of these answers and something wrong in each of the answers, but the overwhelming answer was they're all wrong. Because what was number 5? What they did do?
Go forward.
Go forward. Move. Journey forward. Move. Action. Take action.
It's like from last week, the umbrella story.
The umbrella story?
Oh, about, wait, no. not
When he
that.
said everybody.
Oh, yes,
phone,
yes,
and
yes,
it's like, that's
yes,
it, it's
yes,
called off,
yes,
everybody leave,
yes.
because nobody can.
Exactly. Yes. Move. You're supposed to be traveling to Mount Sinai. Travel to Mount Sinai. God said you're supposed to be you're heading towards Mount Sinai. Go ahead. Go forward. Now, what were all of these 4 different opinions? What were all these 4 different groups? What did they all mean? And what does this mean for us? And that's what we're gonna discuss. Because there are times when you feel flooded. You feel overwhelmed. You feel overwhelmed with a situation and you don't know. Always, yes.
Constant.
Especially nowadays, you open up your phone in the morning and you're
Yep.
flooded.
Yeah.
Flooded with worry, flooded with anxiety, flooded with personal issues that everyone has. Everyone is flooded. You're overwhelmed. We're all overwhelmed. And the question is, how do we deal with our overwhelm? How do we deal with the situation that we're facing when we're feeling this tremendous overwhelm? So there's one group that says, jump into the sea. And what this means is,
How's that
freeze.
not going forward?
Because they weren't thinking, I'm going forward. They were thinking, we're going to die in the sea. We're going to commit suicide in the sea. It wasn't with the attitude of, I'm going forward and I'm going to just do what has to be done. It was, let's kill ourselves. Let's jump
Better
into
to
the
die in the
sea.
sea
and-
than to be subjected to the
Exactly.
Egyptians.
Let's die in the sea rather than be subjected to fighting them or the Egyptians. It wasn't with the attitude of God said, go forward, believe. Let's just go forward. So what going into the sea, jumping into the sea means in our own lives is we freeze. We freeze and we give up. We become victims. So when we're in a situation that we feel overwhelmed, we might just say, okay, I'm just avoiding the situation. I'm avoiding it. Instead of dealing with the situation, I'm just going to avoid it. So for example, you're in a toxic relationship, right? You're in a toxic relationship, whether it's with a spouse or with friends. And you say, I'm just going to avoid the fact that I'm in this toxic relationship. You avoid it. Or you work on you say, I'm going to work on myself so much. I'm going to go to therapy and one therapy and another therapy. I'm constantly going to be looking and seeking and working on myself. And that's going to change things. But you're not confronting anything. You're not doing anything about it. You're avoiding it. Or you may take out your phone and just scroll down your phone because I'm avoiding the situation. Or I might just get into bed and just stay in bed, just avoiding the situation. That's often a first reaction, this freeze reaction, this victim reaction. And this reaction is based on the fact that you think that you have no agency. You can't change things. It comes from fear. I can't do anything about it, so I'm just doing nothing. And by just making myself small and just trying to convince myself that this isn't a problem, it will go away. But the problem is, it never goes away because the situation is still there. You haven't changed yourself. You haven't worked on yourself, and it could express itself in a good way. Like you'll sometimes have these people who volunteer for every organization. Their house is falling apart, but they're volunteering for every organization, right? That's the same mode. You're freezing. You're avoiding your situation. You're avoiding your home. You're avoiding your kids. You're avoiding your situation. And it looks great because, looking on your resume, you're doing all the chesed in the world. You're doing all these organizations that need help. It looks like you're doing right. From the outside, it looks like you're doing good, but you're not really coping. And from the outside, the person is looking like they're everything. They might even look calm on the outside, but inside, they're slowly dying. Inside, they're breaking apart because this is not. You can't do that. It doesn't work. So that's the first group. The first group is jump into the sea, give up, victimhood. Second group was let's go back to Egypt. So this group is saying, let's go back to the situation that was, and let's just accept it. This is the situation. You see, anything other, at least that was a known
Right.
that I can deal with. That was a known. It's a terrible situation, but it's at least a known terrible situation. So it's a known, so you might be in a bad relationship with people. You might be in a bad, toxic job. And you say, okay, I'm going to go back to that job because at least this
It's
is
the devil you
something.
know as opposed
I
to the
know
devil
that.
you do know.
Exactly. It's the
Right,
devil
vice
that,
versa, right.
exactly. It's the devil that I know. And so therefore I'm going to stay with it. And the problem with this is, again, you're just giving up. You're continuing to function, but it's without hope. It's without being alive. It's without the passion. You're continuing to function. You're enduring your situation. You're continuing to do what has to be done. But again, you're not really living because you've just given up your agency. You've just given up the fact that you can change and become different. That's the second group. We're going to go back to Egypt.
That's like throwing in the towel.
Throwing in the towel.
Just saying.
That's it. It is what it
That's
is.
what it is, and that's not making change, not making headway, not facing the problem, and it's gonna keep on showing up.
It's going to
When you
keep
throw in
on.
the towel, it keeps on showing up
Yes, exactly.
until you start to do something about it.
Exactly. Yes. Now, the third group says, okay, let's fight. Now, on the one hand, this sounds good because at least you're energizing yourself, at least you're determined, at least you're doing something. The first two groups was just like, nothing, victimhood, basically, like I'm giving up. Victimhood, I'm ignoring it, I'm freezing, or I'm just giving up, I'm resigning myself to this reality. The third group, on the one hand, is like you're full of energy. You're fighting. Let's fight the situation. Let's stop. I'm not going to just stand by and take it. I'm going to fight it. What's the problem with that?
Negativity.
The
No
problem
weapons.
is anytime you fight, there's always negativity. Anytime
Why?
you fight, there's always going to be people who die. That's what happens.
Victory over peace.
Sorry?
Victory over peace.
Victory over peace. There's always going to be casualties. And what this situation means is you're saying to yourself, I'm going to just, and it was really a suicide thing, let's fight, because it wasn't like they were able to fight. They had no weapons, no nothing. They were just a group of people, men, women, and children, with these armored Egyptians. So it was obviously that you couldn't fight them.
But on the other hand, they don't give up. They want to
Exactly.
fight.
Right.
So I think it's good.
And that's
It's
why
great.
we're actually going in order from worst
Yes.
to best.
Exactly.
So yes, that is really, number
Yeah.
3 is really better than any of the other options because at least you're
Absolutely.
determined, at least you're showing it.
Exactly.
The example of what this would be at a psychological level when we're dealing with things is when you say, okay, I'm going to become hyper controlling. I'm going to control everybody. Okay? You're having a problem with your teenager and you're deciding, should I speak to her? Shouldn't I speak to her? Should I discuss it? Should we open the discussion? So the first thing you might say is, the first thing is I'm jumping into the sea, I'm freezing. I can't do anything. I can't. You ignore the fact that she's getting involved with all kinds of things that she shouldn't be involved with. You ignore the fact that you as a mother have a responsibility to educate her. You're freezing. You're avoiding the conversation. Second is, you're going back to Egypt, you say, it's not so bad. Okay, she's doing that. At least it's a known evil. It's a terrible thing, but at least it's a known thing. Who knows if I say something, it might get worse.
Yeah.
I may make it worse, right? The worry that every mother has. Look, I might make it even worse than what it is. At least I know this. At least this is what she's at. The third thing is I'm fighting it. I'm confronting it. Okay, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to deal with that child of mine. And you deal with it in a confrontational way. You deal with it in a fighting way. You're not calm when you speak to her. You're very controlling. You're dealing with the situation, but you become hyper controlling yourself, controlling others, trying to make this, and you're doing it in a confrontational way that you're really not calm, but you're fighting it. You're fighting the situation. And the results is that
Doesn't
it's
work.
not going to work. And even if it works, it doesn't last. Because you can't keep on fighting things. If you're in this fighting mode of, I'm going to change things, I'm going to change the reality. You know, it's like when you're saying, like, before Pesach, I'm going to clean my house. And you say, okay, I'm going to tackle it all. You know, you tackle it all for 5 minutes and then you're exhausted. Exactly.
This is a good example.
Because you can't, you know.
Cold
that's-
cleaning lady.
I'm gonna take care of it all. You know, you start taking care of it all. Half hour later, you're on the couch sleeping because you just can't. You know, that's when you're in that confrontational mode. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Group number 4 was, okay, let's pray. Let's pray. So on the one hand, again, we're going from worst to best. So on the one hand, we told every day you should pray. We should always pray. You have a need, you have something that you need from God, you pray. Anytime you have a need, we have a mitzvah. The mitzvah of prayer is not, biblically, is not that we stand with our prayer 3 times a day. The biblical mitzvah of prayer is that anytime you have a need, you call out, God, I need something, I need this. You speak to God. Now, we also have rabbinically every 3 times a day because we need to have a format and a formula of how we do it. But the biblical command of prayer is anytime you have a need, you say, God, I need this. So what was wrong with saying, pray to God, and God's going to take care of it?
There's no
But
you in
God
that.
will
There's no,
not.
there's no you in there doing it.
Yeah.
There's no you. It's only, you know, you say, all right, God, I'm going to leave it up to you.
Exactly.
You have to do something in
Exactly.
order to be helped by God.
Exactly. So the problem with this one was you can't be passive. You got to do something. You got to do something. Of course, prayer is important. But along with prayer, you've got to do your action. A person can't say, God, give me a job, and then don't even look at the wanted ad.
Exactly.
You know? Or, God, I need food, but you're not going to the grocery to get food. You know? You need to do that. You pray, or of
I
course
need to
we
win the
pray.
lotto, but I didn't buy it.
Exactly. You know, so part of prayer is not just that you hold your hands up to God. We need to make what's called a keli, a vessel. We need to make a vessel for God's blessing. We need to do our part and make that vessel. It's like, you know, you need to plant the seeds in the ground, and then you could say, God, make it rain. But I planted the seeds so that those seeds could grow. So I'm planting the seeds, and then I say, God, please make it grow. So that's what was wrong with number 4. And number 4 would be, again, if you're in a situation like you're in a toxic relationship, or you don't know what to do with your teenage daughter, you're saying, I'm praying to God, which is important. Pray to God. But at the same time, you need to have that conversation with her. You need to have that conversation and open the conversation. So none of these were good. Not jumping into the sea, not going back to Egypt, not fighting, and not praying. But what was the
Praying,
answer?
yes, but
No,
But
not
not
praying.
praying on its
Prayer
own.
alone is what
Okay.
she's saying.
Yes.
Prayer alone is not.
yes.
And right now, it wasn't the time. God, what does God say? It's not the time for prayer right now.
Right.
They're behind you. This is in front of you. God says that. What is the solution? Number 5, move. Go forward. Move forward. Move forward, and you'll see God's help.
So this is action.
Action. Exactly, action. Now, and what happened? They moved forward. The first one to jump into the sea was Nachshon ben Aminadav. He jumped into the sea because he knew God wants us to do what is our part. And he went in until his chin, and then the sea split. Do your action, and then God will do his action. Now, why does a person usually choose one of the first 4 instead of the 5th?
Because it's a cop-out.
It's
Right.
easier. It's comforting. It's easier to avoid it, and you find a comfort in it because you're then dealing with what you've already dealt with, so you can handle it. All of a sudden, you got the great unknown. You know.
Exactly.
When you're anxious, it's just me, 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 me. I mean, really, anxiety is selfishness because you're like, what's happening to me? How are they going to act towards me? How will this affect me?
Exactly.
But when you know that there is an infinite power above you, that is, you are just a microscopic piece in that, what Nachshon ben Aminadav did, was not seeing that. It's like, what do we do in our control? He had a Muna that, you know, he walks in, Hashem can control literally anything. So you could walk into the sea, Hashem has the power to split it in 2 seconds.
Yes.
So that's the real like trust and bitachon we have to have. That like Hashem could do literally anything. That means split a sea if that's the only route you have to escape, even if nature tells you it's impossible.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly. Beautiful. Exactly. So, when we are looking at a situation, we often are, you're saying it's very ego driven, and you're right, because what happens is we all like to be comfortable. We all like to not have anxiety. We all want to be in that place where we're anxiety ridden. We don't have that anxiety, where we're comfortable in what we're doing. And movement requires discomfort. Moving forward is an unknown. You don't know what's going to be. That unknown is very uncomfortable. And we don't want to take that uncomfortable step. Resilience means not that we avoid discomfort, but that we face the discomfort. We face the unknown with the confidence that God is on our side and God is going to help us forward. Paralysis is when we are scared to face that reality, to take that step. So you are jumping into the sea because I'm avoiding the situation. I'm scared to face the situation. And so that's why I'll spend all my days just scrolling on my phone or just doing whatever, because I'm scared to actually face the situation that I am in. I'm scared to confront it. Going back to Egypt is the same thing. I'm choosing what I know over what is a possible unknown, a possible future unknown. It's the fear of the unknown. I don't know what's going to be. Fighting is also, you're fighting, you're fighting them, but you're not doing it in a way of presence. You're just fighting, you're just controlling, but you yourself are not present in it. And prayer as well. You're praying because you're paralyzed. You're stuck. You're stuck that you cannot move forward. So I'll just give over my agency to God. God will save me. I'm a victim as well. All of these are victims. Moving forward means I'm trusting in God that this is what God wants of me, that this is what God will help me to do. And it doesn't require huge effort. It requires one step, one small action. Take that small action, not because I'm not afraid. I am very much afraid. I'm very much fearful of the unknown. I don't know what's going to be. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm confident enough to say I'm going to take this step. So when it comes to, for example, someone in a toxic job situation, I mean, let's bring it down to earth. Let's bring it down to these real life situations. When it comes to somebody in a toxic job situation and they feel the environment is poisonous and they just can't continue. So the freeze person is saying, I'm just going to ignore the fact that I'm in this situation and just try to scroll on my phone during work or try to avoid the work, and that's it. The going back to Egypt means, okay, maybe I quit my job and I'm scared now because I don't have where the money is going to come from. Let me call my boss back and maybe I could just come back temporarily, right?
That actually could happen, and that's when you know it's a toxic job.
Because she's been
That
there.
has happened to me.
She's been there. She's been there.
Yes, and instead of like moving forward, you become scared. You're flooded. You left your Egypt. You left your toxic job, but the Egypt hasn't left you. As soon as the next day comes or the next week comes,
Because
and you
then
don't
you're
have
settling and they take advantage of you and you're like, oh, can I just come back just for, they're like, sure, if you will take anything, we'll pay you half your salary, half the hours.
right,
very true.
exactly, exactly.
You know, now I'm thinking about it because I did leave my job that I was there 22 years and it was not the best breakup, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think that breakup, I think it did have to happen, that break, the way that it happened, because they did ask me to stay on and do finish up some work that I was going to do, and I could probably foresee that I would have been winding up doing again back there where I had reasons to leave. I definitely had my reasons, and like now if I think about it, I have, like, you know, thank God I got free time with the baby and the kids and the family, and and I guess that breakup really did have to happen. At first I was really like, how could you do this to me for 22 years, you know?
Right.
But I'm like, you know, maybe that was the right breakup, because then it really solidified that I did the right thing, and I didn't go back and,
Right.
you know, went out and on my own doing freelance and other,
Right.
you know,
And exploring
things.
other possibilities,
Mhm.
which you couldn't do if you were
Right.
stuck in
That's
what you were
true,
doing,
yeah. Mhm.
right?
I also once had that where they also wanted me to like train in a new person and get rid of me.
Yeah.
No, I'm not that. I mean, that's stupid. I'm not that stupid. Let someone else train
One
me.
person get rid of you.
And like I was so mad.
That's like
I was
getting
mad.
divorced and your ex-husband
Right.
saying, make my next shit up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
you know
really bad.
And I literally
That's
took my
nerve.
things. I just very, very quietly, and I felt so righteous.
Right,
Like
that
I was
is
one of
nerve.
these four. I was so righteous. I took my things and I was walking out of that building.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And all of a sudden,
Walked
it's a
out.
school with 2,000 kids, with 5 floors. It's a huge school. And all of a sudden, I hear the dean's secretary saying over the loudspeaker, Mrs. Benjamin, please report to, we'll just call him Rabbi Reuben, to Rabbi Reuben's office. Mrs. Benjamin, please report. And I'm like, I could just leave and make believe I didn't hear it.
Right,
I was
exactly.
already outside because I was by the door.
Yeah, I literally
could just like
walked
make
out
believe I didn't hear it.
also.
And then I realized that was not the right thing to do, to walk away from that announcement. That Hashem made me heard that. I said the hard thing to do would be to go back, let him say his piece, let me say my piece, and then if we need to end it, we'll end it.
So that was, you know, your instinct was jump into the sea to avoid it, avoid the whole situation.
Avoid the whole thing, leave.
And instead, you were like, let me.
Instead, I really did what was so hard. It was so
Which
hard.
was very hard.
It was so hard for me.
You were
I just
sent to
heard
the
myself.
principal's office.
Yeah, I was sent to the principal's office, and I turned around, and I went to the dean, and he heard me out, and I heard him.
Right.
And
And that's a hard conversation.
It was a really hard conversation, and he basically gave me the option, and he said, you could have back the job.
Wow. Wow.
And I was like, now you're making me feel bad.
Right,
so she
exactly.
needs the money more than I
You
do.
can't go back because
But that's again,
I took it, I
Are
went back,
still-
because I knew my husband was
Yeah,
making
she
my
went
job.
back.
No, you went back?
I
Oh,
went
you went back? Because the reason that you left is still there.
but
was
now
still
it was,
here, but at
now
least
it was
everyone knew.
different.
At
Yes.
least everybody knew what everybody was thinking,
All right,
instead of
that's-
bottling up the anger inside.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
So yes, and that's what we're gonna talk a little about that as well. So yeah, that would be, let's say, the second way. The third way is fighting. So maybe you left a job, and then you might, like, you left the job, but now you're gonna write to everybody, like you're gonna tell them and
Right.
prove to them how you were right in doing it. You know, you're gonna start off with those fighting ways and show them that you were right and why you left, and show them how needed you are. You haven't left. You're still fighting.
Right,
You're still-
right.
You haven't left the situation. You're still trying to prove yourself.
I just broke, yep, that was it. You know, now, again, I'm actually thinking about, like, I don't know, maybe I should call her or something. I don't know. Just say, you know, it's okay.
Right.
You know, it had to happen. There was a reason, you know, like Yosef and his brothers, you know?
Right.
Maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe I will, you know.
It'll be out.
Sometimes
Right,
it's
exactly.
closure.
Yeah, close,
Yes,
I know.
and that's
I
what we're
know.
gonna see with the fifth one. But let's go on to so the next thing would be like praying, which again is understood. Okay, I'm gonna pray for a job, but I'm not gonna actually take out the wanted, you know, go into the wanted.
Even Yaakov also prepared for war,
Right, yes.
prayed and prepared for
Yes,
war,
yes.
and sent presents to Esav. So we know that he did not only pray.
So we see like all of these things have a place, but it has to be done in a healthy way. In other words, all of these 4 things, there are some good to it, but they're not when this is the unhealthy way of approaching it. The move forward means that the situation might not have changed, but I changed. My perspective has changed. I split my seed. So I am no longer eating up myself. So it doesn't matter whether you go back to your job or don't go back to your job, but you're going back in a completely different format. You went back to your job, but you went back with having it all out, having the discussions out, confronting the situation, seeing the situation. You might want to write to the person, you know, who you've left and explain it, but it's not being done out of the fighting anymore. It's being done from a new awareness. You're split, your sea has been split. The situation might be the same, but you are now aligned. You are aligned in what you're doing. You're aligned with your values, you're aligned with what you're feeling, you know what you've left and why you've left it, and you see it in a different light. You see it in and this isn't the first way of avoiding it, of avoiding the confrontation where you're going to therapy and therapy, not just because you're avoiding your situation. You're running from one thing to the next and you're avoiding your situation. This is confronting your situation, but then working on yourself. So all of these have a point, like the jumping into the sea where you're, working on yourself or taking on things for yourself or avoiding the situation. There's a time when you should avoid the situation where it's not a place, but it's with a new awareness of this is who I am, this is where I'm at. Going back to Mitzrayim, sometimes you're going to do that. You're going to go back to Mitzrayim. You're going to go back to your situation. You're going to say, this is what I need to do. This is what you might go back to a toxic marriage because you want to save it for the kids, or a toxic job because you want to, you need the money. But it's with a new awareness that this is not my fault. This is not where I'm at fault. I don't need to fight this. It's not with the resignation of, this is all there is. It's with a new awareness. Maybe I'm going to be working at the same time to get something else. Maybe I'm going to open up my possibilities to something else. Maybe this is what I'm at this stage in my life, but at a future stage, things will be different. You're planning out your release or your escape in a better way. And the same thing is with the fighting. Sometimes you need to fight, but when we're talking about that fighting in a splitting the sea moment, is you're fighting in a calm way, not just fighting, not just controlling, not over vigilant. You're doing it in a calm way. You're confronting the situation without this, it's like when you're speaking to that teenage daughter, you're going to confront her about her behaviors. But you're not going to confront her with this, how could you be doing that? You're calm. You're seeing the situation properly. I'm going to have one discussion at a time. Or if I'm going to clean my house for Pesach, I'm not going to do everything at once because I have to get through it. I'll tackle one thing at a time, one room at a time. I'll spend 1 hour a day doing it. You're doing it in a way that makes sense. Or if you're praying, yes, of course you pray. But along with the prayer, you're not just saying, God, please help me. You're saying, God, please help me. And I'm taking this one step. So all of the four have a place when you're aligned in a proper way, when your sea is split, when you can look at it in the right way. And going back to our first conversation, which was about this special day of Yud Shvat, what I love about this is so much the Rebbe's approach to things. Move forward. Just take the step. Just do something. And it doesn't have to be this huge step. One little step, one step at a time that is aligned with your values, that is aligned with your purpose, that is aligned with your mission, gets you to where you need to get to. And it is a place of discomfort. And we're not shy from discomfort. You can look at it like two circles overlapping, where there's the circle of comfort and the circle of discomfort. And it's that little place where they're overlapping, that little place where there's that discomfort. That's a healthy discomfort.
A Venn diagram?
Sorry?
Yeah, Venn diagram.
Venn diagram, it's called.
Yes.
VENN.
Yes, exactly. And that place where they are overlapping is, yes, it's uncomfortable, but that's okay. Discomfort is not what we're afraid of. When we're moving forward, we can have that. Discomfort leads to resilience. Discomfort leads to growth. We don't want to always be in a place of discomfort, but a little discomfort is okay. We don't wait until we're calm. We don't wait until the situation is under control. We don't wait until we have the certainty of knowing the outcome. We take that step, and that step brings the outcomes that we want. And, looking at how the Rebbe, back to Yud Shvat, looking at how the Rebbe looked at our world and saw our world and said, he had a vision. He said, from the time I was a little child, I had a vision of Mashiach coming. From when he was a little child. And he once was meeting this girl in Crown Heights, this little girl who got very close to the Rebbe. She didn't know, she wasn't religious at all. She would meet the Rebbe, and he once told her, you know, she had like all these dreams of what she wanted to do in her life. And he once said to her, I also have a dream. I have a dream of having a lot of different people in all these different areas all around the world. And imagine the networks that you're going to have. This was the Rebbe's dream of shluchas, of shluchim all over the world. And whenever someone will go to one place, they can meet with the emissary and they'll have a connection, and they can go to another place. Wherever Jews will be, there will always be somewhere where they can turn. And this was a revolutionary idea.
Yes.
When my father went, and when he sent my parents to Toronto on shluchas, it was like right at the beginning when it wasn't common. People were like, "What? What are you going? Where are you
Is
going?"
there anywhere warmer we can go?
Hanukkah.
Is there any place warmer we can go?
There's shlichim.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, a
And-
new city was.
Nothing.
It was like a new city.
Yeah.
I'm going to a new city. I said, but what's the name of the city?
Right.
What's it called, new city?
Old city, new city.
No, what was the old city then?
New York.
New York.
But it's amazing how within like a generation or two,
Yeah.
now it's common. Like a young man and a young woman who get married, they're looking for shlichus. They're trying to find
Oh
shlichus.
yeah, there's like what?
It's
100
hard to
couples or
find.
something that want
Yeah.
to do. Yeah, they're lined up.
You know,
They're opening up a new one in West Boca, I think they said. I just saw that
yeah,
in
it's
Florida.
every year
And
you
this is-
see.
Yeah,
Every year you see new and more people.
They
that
should go to India.
They are.
I know. But
No, new people and a new it's gonna be huge where they're doing it.
So that was the vision that the Rebbe had, and that vision changed an entire generation to now people are actually competing to go to places, trying to get to places, trying to get locations. That was the Rebbe's understanding of things.
Wow.
And I just want to share one last story. And then
so
we can
he
ask
was the one to start the
the whole
shlichim.
shlichut, yeah. I mean, the Frierdiker Rebbe, previous Rebbe, started sending people as well, but
Oh.
he took it much, like he made it so,
Wow.
yeah.
So it's
Like even
not
in Russia,
like
there was different people, like there were underground
Right, they
yeshivas of
couldn't-
people who were doing these things, because Torah had to be taught, and
yes.
the communists didn't allow it. So you had people who were doing this and were so at the risk of their life, literally. But the Rebbe had this vision of making it big, like taking it to the next level, bringing it to every city, every country, every place, and sending people. That was his vision years and years ago. And the vision that we see today is that vision. You don't see like what do they say? You have Coca-Cola and you have LeBron.
Right, yeah.
You know, that's what you have. So that was really the Rebbe's vision of how to go about doing this. I want to share with you a story as well that shows just the Rebbe's perspective of this positivity and positive thinking and just moving forward, just doing. This story was with my aunt when she was a little young girl. My grandparents had just moved to Toronto. My grandfather was a rabbi in Holland, in Switzerland, and in Holland, and he took a position teaching in a school there in Toronto because he just wanted to get out of Europe at that point. It was after the war, and my grandparents had 10 children, and their youngest was a girl, and my grandmother was actually an only child, and she decided to have 10 children, which is quite something. And her youngest child, her name is Amina from Amuna. When she was born, when she was a young child, maybe 2 or 3 years old, she was a very rambunctious kind of child. And there was this, in those days, the way that you would do laundry is you had this big pot of boiling hot water, and she climbed into this pot. And she was completely burned, her whole body. Terrible. It was a horrible, horrible situation. And they took her to the hospital, and they said the situation looks very, very bleak. It looks really, really bad. And my grandfather, his uncle was Rabbi Chodakov, who was the secretary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. and he asked his he asked his uncle to, sorry, his brother-in-law. It was his brother-in-law who was Rebbe Chadakov, my father's uncle. He asked Rebbe Chadakov to ask the Rebbe what to do, for a bracha, for a blessing. And the answer that he was given was, make a kiddush. Make a happy kiddush, a farbrengen and a kiddush, joyous, showing your joy for her recovery.
Before the recovery.
Before the recovery. She's in the hospital. Her situation is pretty
Grim.
grim. Yeah. And that was the Rebbe's attitude, like, make a Thanksgiving celebration, and then God will show. You show the action that we're talking about. Make that celebration, and God in turn will act on it. Show your faith in God, and God will act on it. So you can imagine they were not in the mood of doing that, but this is what the Rebbe said. So they did it. They made that Shabbos a big celebration in the shul, a big kiddush, whatever it was. And they get a message from the hospital that the situation has gotten worse. In those days, it wasn't even like phones everywhere. Someone actually came and said, like, the days are limited. It looks really, really bad. And so again, like right away, he called for the Rebbe. He called his uncle to ask the Rebbe, what should we? His brother-in-law to ask the Rebbe, what should we do? And he was told, it's impossible. Go in and make a big fuss that they must be giving the wrong medication.
Wow.
And he was like a greenhorn. He was someone who didn't even speak English properly. He had to ask his oldest daughter at the time to speak to the hospital because he had such an accent. He just an immigrant that just came in, and to make like a big fuss in the hospital. Like in those days, the doctor was so respected.
Right, yeah.
The hospital was so respected. Like, I should go in and say that. But he did. He listened, and he, with his daughter, he was able to do it. And he made a fuss. He said, check the medication that they're giving, and they checked. And the IV was that they were giving her was the wrong medication.
Oh my God.
And as soon as they changed it, yes, unbelievable.
German nurse or something, or am I mixing
Oh
up
my
something?
God.
That I don't,
You would
yes,
know.
that I don't know.
Okay.
You're right, there is a story.
Wow.
Now, she got better, but I think the point was the faith that we have to have. Years later, when she was going to get married, her chassan, her groom, was a little worried because everyone knew the story, and she was burned, like so much of her body was burned.
Right, there was still scarred, there was still.
There wasn't scars, but he was worried, like, could she have
Really?
children?
Scars healed?
Is she healthy?
Could
Wait,
she
the
have
scars healed?
The scars healed. She
Wow,
got
that's wow.
yeah, she got healed. Everything
That
was
is
fine.
because, I mean,
She
that's-
was a baby.
Is your father's
Yeah,
baby
but
sister,
still,
right?
she
Baby
fell into
sister.
boiling
Were
water.
you close with her? Like, did you
I knew her a little
That
bit.
is
She's
wow.
there, and now, yeah, she's still alive. She lives in California. But listen to this. They
I'm
were
listening, I'm
nervous.
listening.
They were her future husband was nervous about whether or not she could have children because she was buried. She was burned from her 3/4 of her body. And the Rebbe gave him a blessing and said, "Don't worry."
She had time travel.
16.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's amazing.
No, she had 16 children.
What do you think, what you want?
No, I owe you for this time and
Yeah.
last time.
What?
I owe you for this
So-
time and last time. Okay?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, okay. We'll take care of it.
So I think the lesson here is, and we could speak about what everyone else, feels or would want to share, but the lesson is move forward in positivity. I can just tell you when my father was in his 70s, he had a growth on his kidney, and we thought it was also,
Cancer.
it was 95% cancerous. That's what they said, like most. And we remembered what was done by my aunt, so we made in my home. We can imagine, we were so nervous and all that. We made in the home a farbrengen with the whole community, nervous like anything, but a celebration, talking, and a Hasidic farbrengen. It says it could accomplish tremendous things. And of course, we went to the Rebbe's aisle and all that. My father also wanted it to be publicized so people could daven for him, they could pray for him, they could do good things, and the whole community. I mean, he was a beloved figure, and the growth was benign. It was
Wow.
completely was saved. But this idea of just celebrating and moving forward with confidence, it was so much what the Rebbe was all about. Just do what we have to do. Move forward. Just a little step. It doesn't have to be the hugest step, but one step forward in your life, in your personal life, in your religious life, in your spiritual life, in your interpersonal life. Just do it in a positive way. Move forward in a positive way. And this breaks, this changes worlds.
So can I share a story kind of similar?
Sure. Should I turn this off?
Yeah.
Okay.